All right, everybody. Hey, what's going on? This is Patrick Dang. And on today's interview, we have a special guest. His name is Mike. He is one of the core members of the Azuki Spirit DAO. And so really, we're going to have a conversation, keeping it casual for us to really learn what this organization is all about. Obviously, if you heard of Spirit DAO before, they've made a lot of interesting purchases in the Azuki ecosystem and much more. And so we're ready to learn. So how you doing, Mike?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on. A lot of members that were, fans of your show. And then when you made the video, they dropped it immediately. So I'm glad to be on and answer any questions and provide some clarity to your viewers about what we're all about.
Yeah, sounds good. So the first thing that I really want to know, and this is really for the audience who maybe is not familiar with the Azuki Spirit DAO. If you were to give the one sentence, what is the Spirit DAO anyways?
Yeah, Spirit DAO, really what we are is a collective of Azuki super fans is how I would think about it, right? Because there's something called the Azuki Spirit Club, and that's a private Discord. And how you get into it is you have to own a spirit. So there's 97 spirits in the entire Azuki collection. So you have to own one of them. Some people own multiple, so we don't have 97 members in there. It's probably 40, 50 or whatever, but most people in there have one spirit because they're pretty expensive. The Azuki Spirit Club had a lot of the top Azuki holders, as you can imagine, because if you're a hardcore fan of Azuki, that's the grail piece that you want to get, right? So within that club, one of the founding members, his name's Ice Coffee. If anyone's involved in the Azuki community, I'll probably has come across him at some point. He came up with the idea of this, hey, we want to own grails together. Well, how do we do that? Because not everyone can fork out 200, 300 ETH to buy a grail, right? But as a collective, everyone puts up 10 or whatever it is. You get to kind of have that shared collective ownership. So that's how the idea was born. Is hey, there's a group of super dedicated collectors that wanted to get together and form a club. Okay. Not an investment club really, but really just a thing to kind of keep driving the Azuki brand forward, because we figure, hey, if Azuki becomes anything at all in Web3 and becomes what we think it will be, then these are going to be pretty clutch pieces of IP that we can either license out or build ourselves or do a lot of things with. So that's kind of how we came to be.
That's really interesting, but I want to take a step back to the beginning. How did you even get into NFTs and crypto and leading all the way to even wanting to purchase this Azuki Spirit?
I've always been a degen at heart. So going
what is a degen? For you, what does a degen mean actually?
Someone that's just gambling is in their blood. Not just light gambling, but you're really, really out there. So I've been in crypto since 2017. But even before that, I was a poker player. College, I was a gamer. That's how I paid for tuition. I played Diablo 3 and sold all my and paid for college. And I spent all my time streaming and playing the market and just making money. I was in fantasy football, so that's how I was a content creator there for about 3 years. And that's how I learned about NFTs. So people in the fantasy football community naturally are also very degen. We bet on sports, we bet on each other, we bet with each other. So when this thing came along about NFTs, the first entry gateway was Top Shot. So that's most people, I would say. Top Shot was your first entry to NFTs.
Yeah. Before this, you already had crypto, Ethereum and Bitcoin and stuff like that already?
Yeah, I bought Bitcoin in 2017, and then I pretty much full sent my net worth into Ethereum at 2018 bottom.
Wow.
So at that time, I think ETH was at around 180 or something. So 1 year I took my entire banking bonus and I just put it into ETH, and then I held it through today. So
okay, so you made some money with Ethereum, and then Top Shot comes in, you get into NFTs. What is your story with NFTs? Did you just buy a bunch of random stuff and just test it out?
Yeah, so probably very similar to everyone. I lost money on Top Shot. I probably lost 6 figures on Top Shot, I would say. I view that as my entry fee into NFT.
Yeah, that's how everyone. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And then what I did was I discovered something through the fantasy football community. It's something called Z.Run. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Yeah, the racing horses.
Right? Yeah, so that was my first big bet in NFTs. So I think I probably bought 40, 50 ETH worth of horses. Okay. The Gen 1, Z1 horses when I was first getting in, and then halfway through I sold half of them and made 3 times my money or whatever it was.
Okay.
And I took some of that, bought a Bored Ape, and then I took some of that, degenerated away, buying shitty stuff that went to zero like everyone else. Got rugged multiple times because I was stupid. I was learning, and I fell for those MLMs, those marketing schemes and all these shitty rug pulls. I didn't know at the time. I was oh wow, this guy has a lot of followers, they have a lot of stuff, their Discord's really active, and I'm this looks like a good project, the art looks kind of cute. Obviously I've refined my approach since then. But some of those early painful lessons I definitely learned along with everyone else. And then Azuki came around. My friend told me about it. Okay. Shout out to him, Metagi. He's also a very big Azuki collector. He's also also the dev for Shibuya. He told me about Azuki. He's like, yo, you gotta check these guys out. The site's incredible. Like, these guys are a really, really good team.
Yeah.
And I was like, like anime, like Oni, I don't know, man. Like, I don't think the space is ready for anime stuff. So I'm like, I'm gonna pass. I had the mint open for like 5 ETH, and I was like, it sold out so quick. I was like, I'll wait till it drops to like 0.5 ETH or whatever. Obviously, it didn't happen. It sold out in like 3 minutes or whatever it was. Quick. I never buy stuff pre-reveal. I always should buy post-reveal. So I'm like, I'm not gonna like fuck around with like 2 ETH, 3 ETH pre-reveal beans, right? And then reveal day comes around, and as soon as it revealed, I was like, okay, this is like the best artwork I've ever seen. I dropped like 45 ETH on like the most banger grail that I could find. It was like a quad fire, so like fire hair, fire eyes, fireball, like fire everything. He was like one of the 2 quad fire guys. So I was like all in. As soon as I saw the art, I'm like, okay, I understand now. I messed up, but like I'm very quick to fix mistakes. So I went all in at that point.
But then didn't you like see the art already when Azuki was teasing out their stuff?
But they didn't tease out like real like PFP. So like you could see like on the site how the characters were looking, stuff like that, but they didn't really show, at least not that I saw, they didn't really show like the PFP, right? They didn't show what the actual art ended up being, but also more importantly, they didn't tease any rares. When it revealed, I spent that entire day just going through the collection. I picked out like 16 of like the top 30 Azukis right away before the rares rarity came out, because that's how good the collection was. You could just look at something and you knew it was rare.
Got you. I have a question. So I'm somebody that likes to buy the floor, not necessarily the rarest ones. I'm really interested in like the psychology behind why does somebody, want to spend a significant amount more money to buy a rare one versus just like buying like 10 floors instead, right? Like why one fire hair and fire eyes and things like that?
We have another friend as well, and he's probably one of the top Azuki holders. Shout out to Shiruku. If you're only looking for like the financially motivated piece, you for sure like floors are always going to be like the better bet.
Oh, interesting.
But ultimately, like I'm like a collector, right? So for most collections, like I'll just buy floors. But for collections I really like and I feel like I want to hold for a long, long time, I like buying stuff that I like to look at too. So that's like a piece of it. Obviously, you can sell rares for more, but if you look at it on like a relative percentage basis, and especially if you consider the airdrops, floors were, 100% the better play. But for me, like I like building a collection that I like looking at. I would never consider myself an art collector before NFTs. But after NFTs came out, I was like, hey, there's like really cool stuff that I really want to collect. So it's kind of like a trade-off between liquidity and upside. I do think that like, once you hit like mega bull markets, you can sell like some rare pieces for like, really, really top end stuff. But also I think, the important part, which you cover on your show, is like some of the stuff unlocks like, hidden like sub communities, right? So like spirits. If I didn't have a spirit, I never would have met Ice. I never would have joined the Spirit DAO. We never would have been building cool stuff like we are now. And then there are other like types of sub communities like that, throughout other collections like Bored Ape. If you own a black suit, I think you get something to access something called the boardroom, which like like a good alpha group and other people that you can connect with. So, and then ultimately, if you buy a rare, your hope is that the collection gets rewarded, right? So, obviously it didn't happen with Beans because it was a totally random airdrop, but you can see it with Bored Ape, right? If you have a gold ape, then you could drink the serum, you get a gold M1 and a gold M2, and those are worth a lot more as well. So there's a little bit of balancing act, but I think, to your point, if your main focus is purely financial driven, then floors is like mostly always up.
I see. Do you think there's a bit of like a status thing of like, not that you're like saying you're better than other people, but it's kind of like, it's like a club, right?
Yeah, I think, every NFT is a little bit of like a social token, right? So, everyone has a Bored Ape is flexing. Same thing with spirits. Yeah, there's definitely some financial upside there as well. But there's that like collector piece where I'm like, hey, like I really wanted this. It's like a goal of mine. Like, I wanted a Bored Ape when I first joined this space, and it's just like a certain goal that I wanted to, tick off my list, and then just meet very like-minded people. I think that was one of the biggest advantages that kind of came out of joining the Spirit Club, is meeting all these people.
Gotcha.
And then building this cool thing that we have.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I want to move into the Spirit DAO next. Ice was he just the one that like, hey, we should create a DAO? Is that how it started, or?
Yeah, so I think it was Ice and Conger as well, who's one of like the top Azuki holders. I think he has like 70, 80, 100, whatever, however many he has. These guys are like whales. I'm like very, very small fish compared to these guys. But he started the channel, was like, hey, like I think this would be a cool idea. The buy-in's gonna be like 10 ETH per token. up to a maximum of 5 tokens each, so that no one person controlled the DAO. He's just gauging interest, like, hey, who's interested? And I think we got like 20, 30-ish people like from that. I was one of them. My friend Medigi was one of them. And this is how much like trust, I guess, is in this Discord. We just like sent the ETH,
just
and then
straight
he would
up
like invite you to the Spirit DAO Discord, and then more talks and stuff started evolving. That's where the seed was kind of planted, and then everyone else kind of joined from there, and then we reached out to the broader Azuki community too, like in order to join the Spirit DAO. And so the difference between the Spirit DAO and the Spirit Club, the Spirit DAO is not like all whales. So we definitely have whales, but there's also other people that just own like maybe like 1 or 2 Azukis that just kind of like wanted to be involved with that community, and then like collectively own like really, really cool IP. There's a very diverse group within the Spirit DAO. I think most people think it's just like it's all like a bunch of whales buying stuff up. That's not really what it is. It's like there's like big whales, there's people that there's people in the middle like me, there's other people that own a couple. There's just like a whole range of people that just wanted to get involved.
I see. So can people still join the Spirit DAO now? Like if I wanted to join, can I be like, hey guys, can you invite me? Or is it like, like a process to be a part of it? Or
there's a process, and right now it's closed. So we have like 50 members and we're not adding anyone right now. The reason why is because like we kind of like went full steam ahead and we're like, hey, we're going to do this. It's super cool. And, let's buy up all the stuff. But obviously there's like legal, there's tax and all that stuff. So we're kind of working behind the scenes with some lawyers. We brought on some lawyers to help us like structure the DAO and everything so that we don't get into any trouble from like a legal standpoint. So like SEC and all that. So we're trying to like really like, cross the T's and dot the I's, because, it's really cool to like go full steam and do all that stuff. But I think we got to make sure we have the right basis as well. So we brought on some really good lawyers, like Web3 native lawyers, to help us with that. That's why we only have 50 members, because we want to be very nimble. We don't want to be like a big DAO that takes like weeks and weeks and weeks to get decisions made. Every time we buy something big, like it has to get voted on and passed by the entire DAO. So like when we bought like Plowey's Spear for 300 ETH, like we had to like vote on that, right? And that took like only a couple days to vote on that, if I remember correctly. We want members that come in that actually want to like contribute as well, right? Because at the end of the day, this is not an investment fund. We're not really in it to like flip Azukis or anything like that. Our ultimate goal is to like build the brand of Azuki big enough where we can capitalize on our IP and just like build really cool stuff that way. If everything goes well, like the grails that we buy just sit in our wallet forever. Really is how. All
right, before we get into that whole IP talk, which is quite interesting to me, I want to talk about like the buying aspect, right? So let's say there's like a grail Azuki, right? How do you decide that, okay, this is worth 300 ETH, this is what we're going to buy? Like, how do you have so much conviction in that kind of play, right?
A lot of our members, I mean, like Grail has like some of the best Azukis like in the entire collection. Like the unfortunate part is we did a lot of purchases before the FUD hit, right? Because we didn't see that coming. But if we had, like, we would have made even more purchases after. But we usually base it on what the current floor price is. So we think about how I approach any NFTs. I think about buying rares as a form of like multiples of the floor. So how many floors
for one rare one
for this thing. So the thing with the grail market is like it's very liquid for like a couple of reasons, right? One, there's not many of them, right? Two, most of them at this point are held by people that have a high amount of conviction that aren't really looking to sell. So when one comes on the market and is available, it's like, there's a lot of opportunities. So you either got to move or don't move. And generally speaking, our entire group has a lot of conviction, because if we didn't, nobody would have joined, because you have to put your money where your mouth is. It's not like a DAO where you just put in a couple $100.
Yeah,
it's a DAO where you have to put in at least 10 ETH. A lot of us put in 50, like myself included. So naturally, we already have a lot of conviction. So conviction has never really been an issue for us, at least, or for myself. Like I make a few bets, but when I make them really big. So that's kind of how I play the NFT market.
I'm curious to know, like, where does all the conviction come from for Azuki, right? Because it's like, you guys are putting like quite a bit of money buying all the grails and stuff, right? Do you guys just like the brand a lot? You like the art a lot? Like you like the team? Like, or is it a combination of everything that gives you that conviction?
So I think it's a combination of everything. So what gave me the conviction initially was the art, and like Steamboy is a legend, right? He's art director for Overwatch, and he's done some super, super legit stuff. I think a really good collection, really good artwork. You don't need like rarity tools to tell you what's rare. I rarely buy off rarity tools or anything. Like in my mind, I'm like, why do I need someone else to like tell me like what's good and what's not. Like I can tell and I can look myself. So I saw Spirit, I'm like, this is definitely rare. I saw Dr. Manhattan, I'm like, this is definitely rare. So I think that's a very telltale sign of a really, really good artwork. But I think the team, what gave me more conviction along the way is like the team continued to deliver and execute at a level which in my opinion is like above any other team in the space. I think they have like the technical chops. Like when they did the Beans airdrop, like that was insane. I've never seen it done that way, like how fast it was done, how little gas they used, how optimized their contract are, and like, you know, they brought forth like ERC 721A, which is now used by a lot of people in the space. So, you know, I know the team has like the actual background, like they come from, you know, big tech. Every step of the way, they prove to execute at the highest level. Their first and like I would say only mistake was obviously the big mistake that happened that caused all the fuss,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
But before that, they were perfect. So now they have to like regain that trust. They have to rebuild that trust and do all that stuff. But, you know, for me, it's like I've seen them deliver more than anyone else has delivered up until now. It's a pretty easy conviction bet for me if I think that NFTs are going to be here for the long haul. Now, if NFTs go to zero and everything fails and collapses, whatever, then we all lose. But if I'm long NFTs, then I want to be long this brand.
There's a lot of money going into like the Azuki ecosystem, right? Do you ever feel like when you put so much of your assets into Azuki, does that feel risky at all to you?
It definitely feels risky. I mean, I think anyone that plays NFTs that don't think what they're doing is risky is like fooling themselves. It doesn't matter what you're putting in. You can have all your money in Yuga Labs and it's still incredibly risky. I recognize the risk, right? But I've always, like I said, I'm a degen. I've always been a very, very big risk taker, like risk on type of guy. I feel like this is like, you know, over the past decade till now is the best time to be like risk on, because like I don't come from money. Like I'm not, like my parents aren't rich. We weren't like handed anything. So it's like for me to like build any sort of like wealth or whatever, like the only way for me to do it is to really be risk on, and not to be like you know, completely irresponsibly risk on, but to be like calculated risk on. So I definitely do recognize that the risk that I'm taking, but like I said, I'm like a high conviction bets kind of guy. So, you know, when I go all in, if it works out, like I hit big, and if it doesn't work out, then I recognize that's also within my range of outcomes. So
you're collecting all these Azukis, a lot of rare ones.
Yeah.
So like with the IP play, is it that you're betting on Azuki as a brand to keep going up? Maybe they're gonna make a movie, maybe they're gonna make animations or whatever. And then do you want to somehow license your rare Azukis like in these future projects, or like how you think about that?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple pieces to it, right? So, you know, our mission statement is like elevating Azuki IP into the most recognizable brand in the metaverse, right? So how do we do that? I think we work really closely with the team, and we have a really good relationship with the team. During the FUD, right after the spaces with Andrew Wang, which was a disaster. Obviously, everyone knows that. The worst thing that happened to Azuki ever. We got on a call with Zagabon and the team, and we got to talk to him like more personally. That's why like a lot of the high convicted holders, like we like doubled down because we actually got to speak to him. We did our part to kind of like help support the community during that time. So we work closely with the team, but on the IP piece, basically like the reason why I want to elevate the brand is because like, you know, the more valuable the Azuki universe becomes, the more valuable the stuff we hold becomes, right? We want to help them do that, but also we want to like be active. We're not just like sitting by being like, hey, Azuki team, like do your thing and, you know, we'll just wait. Like that's not really our approach. Our approach is to really, really dive in and become ingrained with the community and kind of like build ourselves. So one of the big projects that we're doing right now is we're using our characters to create a comic. So I think that's probably on the roadmap for Azuki as well. Like they're probably at some point going to create like an anime,
like manga or something,
you know, type of thing to capitalize on that $1 billion market. So we're front running them a bit because, you know, we're a little bit more nimble and, you know, we don't have as big of a budget or as big of a long of a roadmap as them. But we're going to be creating our first comic, and this first edition is going to be for free to claim. We're going to decide on how to distribute it, but it's going to be free for like Azuki holders, and then obviously free for all the DAO members because we paid for it. So we've hired an artist, we've hired a writer, and we're working with them, and that'll probably be like you know, a few months project that we'll be working on to release to the public. So yeah, there's like little things like that, and I think there's other people in the community as well. So, you know, Dingling, best collector ever of NFTs in my opinion. We have a really, really talented like art base in Azuki. So we have a lot of people doing like fan art and stuff like that is actually like really, really incredible. So a lot of that stuff helps drive the IP brand forward as well. So there's just like things like that. And there's other people in the community that are also looking at building like comics. I know, shout out to Seesaw. He's the owner of like Dr. Manhattan, like the all blue monk, all lightning eyes. There's a lot of people in the background that are kind of building. Ultimately, we want to be a positive force in the community. And we think that'd be like a really cool thing for, you know, people that really stuck around, you know, during the FUD and like made it out to the other end to look back and be like, hey, this is like a cool thing, you know, that was built by, you know, other members of our community to kind of help them out. And I think like we want to set like a cool framework because like we have a lot of cool assets, right? So as we like start IPing and stuff like that out, people kind of look to us and be like, hey, like they did it that way, let's like follow them and we can do like kind of the same thing to get our own Azuki's license. I know I'm working on like IP deals with like my own Azuki's as well. So
actually that's quite interesting, right? Because kind of everyone has their own IP and you can form a DAO and do your own thing. Do you feel that if, let's say, Azuki comes out with a comic or an anime and then you guys come out with your own, does that make it confusing for like the consumer or the person that would read it? Because they're like, this one's totally different from this one. And it's like, oh, they're different like creators.
So that's like top of mind for us, right? So when we talk to the team and it's like, hey guys, like, you know, we want to create our story, but we want to make sure we fall within like your universe of how you guys think about stuff. You know, we've talked about it with them as like, Azuki kind of, they are a Web3 brand, right? That's their ultimate goal, is like a community-driven Web3 brand, a truly decentralized brand. You know, they can set the guiding principles, but I think in their eyes, it's almost like the multiverse in Marvel. There can be different universes and different storylines, and ultimately, at one point, they can converge or not converge or whatever. But I think because they kind of give that flexibility, we can go out and do a lot of the stuff. There's actually a lore channel in the Azuki Discord from early days. Community members just started writing stuff up about like what beans do, like how Azukis get their powers and stuff like that. And like, you know, I wrote lore for my guy too, because I'm a nerd. I like doing stuff like that. You know, we have some background in terms of like how to like take things like thematically, but obviously, you know, we hired like a professional writer, so it's up to them to like write a story that actually people want to read. Because I think that's the main thing, is like we've seen like comics play out before, right? But ultimately you need a comic that non-NFT people want to read, right? Because if that doesn't happen, there's no top of funnel, there's no demand, right? And the way the Azuki team thinks about this is that's how they think about it. When they want to develop their like anime brand, they want it to be like an anime that someone that doesn't own any Azukis can watch and still enjoy. Kind of like have you seen the League of Legends show on Netflix?
Arcane, right? Yeah.
If you don't play League of Legends, that's still a very good standalone show, right?
Yes, it is.
But if you play League of Legends, it like elevates
you connect so much,
because you're like, damn, like I played that character, I know exactly who that is, I see those like little Easter eggs, right? That's how Azuki's team thinks about how to build it, and that's what gets me excited. Is like they're thinking about it the right way, because ultimately you need to capitalize on an anime base that has no idea what an NFT is. For us, you know, geeks that hold Azuki universe and who hold Azuki assets, for us it's like another level, but like without it, it's still something, right? So I think that's ultimately how we think about it. So we brought on like a professional writer that's not like native to Web3. Like they have and we brought on a comic artist who's not native to Web3. They actually have a very good portfolio of stuff, and they gave us some samples and it looks really dope. But that's how we think about it. We want to create a comic that anyone can read, but it's just a little bit more exciting if you have an Azuki holding yourself.
Do you guys ever worry, or maybe the Azuki team ever worry, that let's say like someone buys an Azuki and then they just put out stuff that's not good and it just makes the brand look bad?
I think everyone like worries about that a little bit, right? That's why like the devil's in the details in terms of like the agreements and the IP and like
stuff.
What you're gonna do. Like if you're gonna take your Azuki and like do some weird stuff with it and like, you know, illegal stuff with it, like I'm sure you'll get into some trouble, I think. But there's also like a little bit of a trust fall, at least for us. Like for the DAO, we hope that we've, you know, included members that have the right mindset and like have the right, you know, morals, which we feel like we do. I mean, I've met a lot of them when I went to NFT in person. We've met each other, so we feel like we have a good base. Who knows? Maybe someone goes rogue and goes crazy, and we'll have to deal with that then. That's like low on my list of like concerns in terms of like what can go wrong and what to worry about. It's on there, but it's just not the highest priority, at least for me.
Got you. Okay. So when you guys do the comic, right, and you put it out, hopefully, you know, NFT people like it, and also non-NFT people can gravitate towards that as well. Let's say that goes well, right? Like, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to like keep stepping it up from like comic to like anime to movies to something? Is that like the goal, like vision wise?
I think for us, the DAO, like, I don't think like movies and anime is really in play, at least yet, like, unless somehow we blow up big enough or we have enough of a balance sheet to do that, because it costs a lot of money to make like animes, right? Like, you're talking like hundreds of thousands of dollars for like, you know, a few minutes of animation, right? You know, you're talking like maybe like millions for like that first like pilot episode. So
okay,
like, I think
sure.
that's something we'll leave to the Azuki team.
Sure.
I think for us, like, if the comic does go well, you know, round one, we'll probably do like further iterations. Like, that's why we brought on a professional writer, you know, who's capable of building worlds, because it's easy to, you know, write fan art and do cool stuff, but like ultimately you want to build a world that gives you the flexibility to like have like version 2 and different story arcs and different characters kind of like work in the story, even if you don't show it all in version 1, which we don't plan to do. We don't plan to show everything because it gets too complicated. We're just trying to do something, you know, cool for the first stage. So ultimately we probably want to do more comics down the line if it is successful, if people actually want it. If people don't want it, then, you know, whatever, it is what it is. But if there is demand, we do want to kind of drive that story forward, like especially using our DAO IP and kind of keep doing that. Like I said, we have a very diverse, you know, base of holders, right? So we have 2 members right now. Okay. Shout out to Makuni and Tubby. Tubby commissioned a community artist named Levi.
I've seen him.
Sorry, I think his Twitter handle. He's been doing cool work. He like took Tubbs and Makuni's beans, and he made these really cool stickers. I don't know if you've ever seen them, like basically like sticker art, and like he created like a little lore around them and created all these stickers. So I think they're gonna like create like a little storefront and kind of like do their thing with that. We have Iced Coffee, who kind of specializes in like the e-com world. You know, he's always doing cool stuff for the Azuki Spirit Club and the Spirit DAO. I see. Thinking about stuff in that front. So I think those are probably more avenues like we could explore a little bit more low upfront capital type of businesses, because, you know, we're not like
a production studio or stuff.
We're not a production studio. We don't have like millions of dollars like do all this stuff. Like, maybe we can work with collaborators, you know, in the space down the line, you know, Web3 native folks to work on some cool like short video type of stuff, like short form video, at least in any time in the near to intermediate term. I wouldn't say like anime is like full on stuff is like really in our wheelhouse.
Okay, not yet at least. But I get you though, because like in the beginning it's more like everything's an experiment, right? Because you don't know what will work, what people will gravitate to. Like something can just take off, and that's the direction, right? I think the idea that you're going for is like, as long as you keep the community engaged, where it's not just like crickets and people just like holding like, let's hope you know the floor goes up. It's just like right? So you're actually doing something, whether it's commissioning artists, doing the comic, right? And that can lead to something in the future. I can see that.
Yeah, I think that's what we want to be, right? Because you know, ultimately the bear market sucks, obviously, you know, everyone hates it, but I think it's a little bit of a blessing for builders, right? And like especially for the Azuki team, because like when you're in a bull market, it's like you got to like launch stuff like super quick, otherwise people forget about you within like a few weeks, right? But now when there's not much going on, they can actually take the proper amount of time. Hopefully their team can, you know, get some rest finally, because I know they had no sleep, you know, for the longest time, addressing all the FUD and all that stuff. And like Arnold, their head artist, Steam Boy, like he's probably been working like nonstop. So now is the time where they can take a little bit of breather and then just like kind of build in silence. And we want to like be a little bit of a bridge, because then we can, you know, kind of launch this comic hopefully before they kind of launch their next collection, and, you know, bridge that little like lull period, right, where it's like dead and silent, and keep driving up, you know, engagement within our community. And there's other stuff, cool stuff going on as well that other members are doing, like Azuki Love Island.
I've seen that.
Started that.
You know, that's pretty
just
funny.
Like a funny little joke, but it kind of like blew up and it keeps people engaged. There's like, you know, Suited Ace is one of the community members. He's hosting like poker events. Like I took part in the last one. It's a lot of fun. You don't have to be a good poker player to play. Like you can just play and have fun. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the community, but we want to make sure we're doing our part as well. And, you know, launching, you know, from our perspective, like our marquee type of event and asset for people to get excited about, and we can all kind of share and enjoy together.
Got you. Okay, that makes sense. Now, segueing a little bit away from Azuki into like other things. Obviously you buy Azukis, you support them and things like that. Curious to know, like, do you also do something similar for, you know, smaller projects or different projects, or is like Azuki the only project that you really like look at?
Yeah, I'll say, so I'm in a decent amount of projects. I've been in Bored Ape for a long time. I've never been as ingrained or as involved with any other community compared to this one. To be like perfectly candid, before Azuki, I thought like when people said like community and it's all about community, I thought that was kind of BS. I didn't really believe in it, because I'm here to make financial gains. I'm here to like invest and make money and do, you know, what I think the majority of people are doing. So I didn't think it was real. Like I thought it was like nice to meet people and all that stuff, but I didn't personally really like connect with
like making like friends. Yeah,
like really make like friends and like build cool stuff and, you know, talk to people nonstop. Like our Azuki like Spirit DAO Discord, people that I've met in Azuki, we have like group chats that I'm like constantly checking like throughout the day, right? I'm always talking to Azuki with them. I didn't really find that before. Maybe that's because I didn't get to Bored Ape early enough, or I didn't get to certain things early enough. But before Azuki, and specifically like before like the FUD like really hit us hard, I didn't really think community was like a real thing. But then afterwards, it's like that like really opened my eyes. I was like, hey, when everyone was like really hating on people and like kicking us while we're down, I was like, that was a very low point for me, like mentally. Usually mentally, I don't really get that phase about stuff. But like it's watching like how really like toxic Twitter was. Like I get like, you know, hating like the team and stuff like that, but like laughing at people that like, you know, lost their money or like bullying people into selling, I think that was a really low point for the NFT community as a whole. But the silver lining was, I think the Azuki community itself like really kind of came together, and, you know, we stuck by each other, and really that like helped us survive the really low points. So ever since then, I just feel like more of an urge to actually like dedicate time to connect with the community, you know, jump on spaces, talk to people, you know, hop in the garden, stuff like that. But yeah, before I didn't really do that. I mean, there were some small projects. So Crypto Goons was one of like the projects that I minted. Like I think I was like maybe like the first 20 people to mint. It was a very small community. It was a slow roll mint. Like the mint took forever. It was like, you don't see that like much anymore, but it was like a slow mint. They didn't do like any marketing. It was like totally organic. Like every day, 10 or so people would jump into the Discord and you'd meet them, and that was like a really cool community building. And then like one day, like FaZe Banks tweeted about it and it sold out. But like for all the way up until that point, like there was barely any sales, so it was just really people talking. And like Sean, the artist, was in there talking all the time. One of the guys who they brought on was from the fantasy football community, who I knew, Ryan Hodge. So that was like another one where I was like, you know, spending a lot of time like just talking in Discord and with that community. But like other than that, I definitely haven't taken as much of an active role, because I mean there's enough time. I'm sure you understand, like if you're in like 10 different projects, like you're not gonna you're not really doing much there. You really can only be in a couple, like honestly. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. The Spirit DAO, do they purchase other NFTs besides Azuki's?
No, we do not. Like I said, we're Azuki Maxis, like super fan club. So like full risk on towards Azuki.
Okay. Like, do you feel like your life is like a dream in a sense? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like you're just like collecting stuff, meeting people, having fun. That's how I feel about my life when I got into NFT. Seriously, it's like it's just fun.
I definitely get you. I feel a sense of that sometimes. Sometimes it's a bad dream, like for the past 2 months, right? Sure. You know, you watch your net worth go from here to like here. You lose like 80% of your net worth or whatever, because you decide to put your money into, you know, liquid JPEGs. But yeah, it's definitely a dream. I think this is like peak degen is NFTs. You know, anyone that's been a degen in anything else in their life, like nothing really compares to this, I would say. So in that sense, it's definitely a little bit of a, sometimes you gotta like, you know, pinch yourself, be like, hey, is this real? Like, am I really, like when you spend ETH, it doesn't feel like real money. It's like, oh yeah, it's like 50 ETH, whatever. I'll buy that. Then when you like really step back and take perspective, it's like
wow, dude,
I just dropped like 100,000 or like whatever on this like picture. Like, what am I doing?
That's true.
Sometimes you definitely have to step back and think about that a little bit.
No, that's true. That's definitely true. I mean, I definitely felt that. It's like, you know, back when everything was going up, it's like, oh, it's whatever. And then when I look back, you're like, wait, how much did I spend on that thing? What? That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that's part of the game, dude.
It is part of the game, man. It's a weird game we all play, and you know, we all play it because we think this tech is kind of here to stay, and time will tell. Time will tell, man. We'll either look like geniuses or we'll look like idiots. There's gonna be like really no in between, you know, 2-3 years from now.
Yeah, pretty much. So anyways, as we go ahead and wrap up the interview, is there any like final words you want to leave to our Parallax audience or anybody who may be listening on this podcast today?
Yeah, I think, you know, the bear market's really rough, man. I think we're getting a little bit of a relief bounce these next couple of days. I would say like tread with caution, because I think if history has shown anything, like these relief bounces usually don't last, and they're followed by, you know, months and months of crab trading, horizontal trading, or just like slow bleed. Try and keep some liquidity on the sidelines, and again, just like don't invest beyond your means. I think, you know, when you get into real trouble in this space is once emotions kind of take over. So for me, my personal investment policy, because honestly nobody knows how much these things are worth. So somebody can say, oh, Bored Ape is a 200 ETH floor, but nobody really knows, right? Take profits that make you comfortable. If the money is really meaningful to you, right, if you can take profits and you can miss that last 2x, miss that last 3x, because the alternative is you hold and you lose 90%, like what just happened, right? So balance your mental health, because if you take profits, right, and if you take money that matters to you, you can act without emotion going forward and act based on reason and rational thought, and that's going to lead to bigger profits down the line. So just keep your mental health in check, man, especially in bear markets, and you know, join a community that you identify with, because honestly, like I said, I thought it was BS before, but it has really helped me personally to just, like, you know, have fun and be part of the Azuki community and just you know, get through these times together.
All right, yeah, those are good words. I mean, trading or even investing in NFTs is more of a mental game, honestly.
Yeah,
of like,
for sure.
It was like surviving, honestly. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up the interview, but thanks again for coming on the Parallax show and sharing your perspective, sharing what the Spirit DAO is doing. And where can people find you? Is it the Spirit DAO on Twitter, right?
Yeah, at Spirit DAO, no underscore anymore, so just at Spirit DAO. You can find me at Mike Me Up with 2 P's on Twitter. My DMs are always open. If you guys got questions about Azuki or whatever, hit me up. If you want to chat NFTs and talk shit, or even fantasy football, you know, my DM's open for everything. It's my personal account, so I talk about whatever I want on there. You can find me on there.
All right, sounds good. We'll go ahead and link that in the description. And thanks again for coming on. I'll talk to you later, Mike.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.